This has been an eye-opening week for me. A few days ago, I announced on social media that my new book is soon to be published, and I posted a link so that people could pre-order the book. Now, the book is called The New Puritans: How the Religion of Social Justice Captured the Western World. And although most of the responses were positive, a lot of activists online were apparently not too pleased. So here's a few examples of some of their reactions to the announcement. "You're pure scum, fella." "I have read what the idiot author has summarised and it's deeply effed up." The kind of thing the alt-right would quote after shooting up a neighbourhood. And bearing in mind this is a book that above all is a defence of liberal values, that does strike me as a tad overdramatic. Anyway, here's another one. "Don't need anything to use to get the fire going at the moment, so no thanks." And another on the same theme. "Is it any good for lighting fire?" Because obviously the best way to show that you're on the right side of history is to go around burning books. Now, of course, I get it. The book isn't for these people, it's about these people. And I suppose if you're what is part of what amounts to a kind of religious sect, and someone is denying the existence of your various gods, you're going to get upset about that. But why would anyone care enough to comment about a book they hadn't read? They don't even know what the contents are. I mean, wouldn't it be better to wait until it's released, read it, consider the arguments, then present counter-arguments if you disagree? Perhaps it's because the new religion of critical social justice, what has become known colloquially as the woke movement, is grounded largely in the conviction that words can be a form of violence and that to be offended is the equivalent of a physical assault. So from their perspective, my book isn't just challenging them, it's hurting them. So it's not enough just to criticise and object. They have to actually stamp other views out, much like the church used to burn heretics at the stake. Studies repeatedly show that the majority of people do take differences of opinion to be a kind of personal attack. And it strikes me that in the age of social media, this problem is getting worse and worse. One minute, you're posting a tweet about how you're going to Disney World for a holiday. And before you know it, someone points out that Florida voted for Donald Trump, and that Trump is a fascist, and Disney World is therefore fascist adjacent. And before long, you're being compared to Joseph Goebbels. And all because you wanted to hang out with Mickey Mouse. Now, Twitter isn't real life, of course, but so much of that kind of discourse appears to be seeping out into the real world, and that's a problem. Every week, I invite people who disagree with me onto this show because I'm genuinely interested in what they've got to say. Sometimes they agree to appear, mostly they refuse. And I think one of the reasons people refuse to debate is because their opinions have become an integral part of their identity. If your entire sense of self is based on the notion that you are fighting a war against armies of fascists, it's going to take a lot to convince you that those fascists are mostly in your imagination. And there's nothing new in any of this. History is full of people who struggle to accept that they've been wrong all along in the face of new evidence. When Charles Darwin realised that his findings meant that his belief in the creation narrative of the Bible couldn't be sustained, he was deeply disturbed. It wasn't just that his views needed to be updated according to the new evidence. His entire Christian worldview was destabilised. And this is what is called an identity quake. And it explains why people react so ferociously when their core beliefs are challenged. It isn't comfortable to realise you've been wrong. But all of us are wrong about many things all the time. How could it be otherwise? So I don't blame people for getting angry when I write a book that challenges their entire belief system. But what I would say to my critics is they ought to read the book before condemning its very existence. And I would be keen to discuss further any of the conclusions I've reached. I'm bound to be wrong about various things, and I welcome the opportunity to be put right. And if people read the book and they still want to throw insults and rant and rave about how evil I am, that's okay too. I'll just ignore them and get on with my life. But if you really care about your beliefs, and if you genuinely think you're in the right, wouldn't it be a lot better just try and persuade others of your point of view? Nobody was ever persuaded by being insulted. So if you're angry about being challenged, remember, you're not alone. It's natural. But instead of demonising those who disagree with you, why not just try listening to what they've got to say? You never know. You might even end up changing your mind.